Hey, welcome back to Broke Student Advice. Now this is actually the first video I'm ever recording for our Learn Investing series, but it's not going to be the first video in the playlist, and that's because I'm filming these videos out of order, because there's certain information that I want to get to you guys earlier, even though it doesn't fit in the timeline of what absolute beginners should be learning about investing. You know, there are a lot of you who maybe know the basics already, so I want to get some of these videos out to you beforehand, and then I can rearrange the playlist later for absolute beginners. Now, the reason I'm making this video is because the most common question I get asked in the comments is, what do you think of this stock or this cryptocurrency? Should I buy it? Should I sell it? Or I have this in my portfolio, what do you think? So I want to make this video where I tell you everything that I invest in. Now from that, you should be able to tell if I'm not invested in it or anything like it, that I probably wouldn't recommend having it in a portfolio. Now, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor and I'm not going to tell you exactly what to buy and sell, but I do have a sample portfolio on our Discord. It's called the Broke Student Portfolio. And I started this back in 2020 for two reasons. First reason was people were constantly asking me what should they be investing in at that time. So I just wanted to have a resource where I showed them if I was starting over again as a beginning investor, what I would be investing in at that time. And I updated the portfolio every month, and it's still going now over a year later. And it's had very good returns so far. Now the Broke Student Portfolio is very similar to what my own portfolio is, but the key difference is that it's on a much smaller scale. So for example, if I hold, let's say 1% of an asset in my portfolio, I'm not going to then go to the Broke Student Portfolio and allocate 1% of that portfolio to this asset that I hold, maybe even just for fun. I like to keep a small portion of my portfolio to satisfy, the gambling itch, because there's always going to be those things you hear about and you think, I think that asset's going to do really well. And if you don't buy it, you're going to kick yourself later. Even though I know that that's not a good investing strategy, I still like to keep a little bit of my portfolio for that. Anyways, I don't do that in the Broke Student Portfolio. I try to make it only things that I would recommend others to invest in. And as a result, the vast majority of the Broke Student Portfolio is things that I myself invest in as a majority of my portfolio. Right now, at the time of this video, the majority of the Broke Student Portfolio is Ethereum and Ethereum ETFs. Similarly, my own portfolio, whether it's my TFSA, my RSP, or my other investing accounts, the majority of it is in Bitcoin and Ethereum, whether the coin themselves or in ETFs. So if you want to see a up-to-date portfolio of things that I recommend investing in, go check out the Discord. The link is in the description of any YouTube video. Now, with that being said, let's get into everything that I invest in my personal portfolio, because it's not 100% what the Broke Student Portfolio is. So first of all, stocks. I've been investing for over about 6 years now, and I've studied finance, and I'm telling you, I am not able to pick individual stocks to a degree that it will outperform the market. Now, the total stock market performs an average of about 8 to 10% each year, depending on where you take your time frame from. For example, in the last few years, it's returned over 20% a year, but on average, it's 8 to 10%. 90+% of traders do not beat the stock market. And we're not talking about your average Joe. You can find stats that show the majority of hedge funds do not beat the market. Now, hedge funds are run by people with their masters in finance, investment bankers, people who've been doing this their whole life, decades, right? And they cannot pick better than the market. Some of the most successful investors of all time, Warren Buffett, John Bogle, they say for the vast majority of people, if you're not like them and have spent decades and decades and have teams of financial analysts to do research and look up data and look at trends, and they really know companies, they've talked to the CEO. If you're not like them, you're better off investing in ETFs, the market, and getting that 8 to 10% a year, which is an amazing return, right? The power of compound interest is going to vastly grow your net worth if you're getting an 8% return per year. I do not try to pick stocks. So if you're asking me about an individual stock, should I invest in Apple? Should I invest in Microsoft? I do not. Currently, I do not have any individual stocks in my portfolio. Now, I have tried in the past, and I made these mistakes so you don't have to, hopefully. But the thing is, I know pretty much everyone who learns investing goes through this phase where they think they can day trade or try to pick stocks, and that's okay. It's much better if you're starting out and making mistakes early than when you're, 40 plus and have a mortgage to lose, all right? Now, what I do hold are ETFs. Now, ETFs, I've talked about before, are exchange traded funds. They are funds like a mutual fund or a hedge fund that can be bought and sold on the stock exchange like shares of a company. So you can buy ETFs of pretty much any theme or market sector or asset you can think of. For example, there are Bitcoin ETFs, which you can hold in your investment accounts. So to get exposure to the stock market, what I buy are market ETFs. These are things like an S&P 500 market ETF or a NASDAQ ETF, and they track the performance of those stock exchange indexes. Now, what I also hold in my portfolio are leveraged market ETFs. Common one that's talked about is UPRO, which is a triple leverage S&P 500 ETF. I'm not going to get into too much about how that works in this video specifically, but basically it tracks the performance of 3 times what the S&P 500 does each day, and it is reset each day. So for example, if the S&P 500 goes up 1% on a specific day, then this leverage ETF will go up 3%, and vice versa. If it goes down 1%, the leverage ETF will go down 3%, which means it's a lot more volatile, definitely more risky, but a lot of smart people have done research and found that a leverage ETF can be a very valuable asset for your portfolio. Now, again, I'm not going to talk about the specifics in this video because it's a very long and complicated subject, but go and Google hedge fundies adventure, and people have talked about this. There's many threads on Reddit or any other forums talking about the strategy where you basically hold a triple leveraged S&P 500 ETF and a triple leveraged bond ETF. And the data shows it has actually outperformed just holding the S&P 500 ETF with a similar risk profile. All right. So ETFs. I also invest in cryptocurrencies. Now, again, I'm not going to go into the specifics of why we invest in cryptocurrency in this video. I already have a video called the Cryptocurrency Investment Thesis, where I talk about what the investment thesis is behind buying cryptocurrency. And I'm going to be making videos on this topic in the future in this series. But for now, basically know that Bitcoin and Ethereum specifically have many years of data to show us a very strong long-term uptrend. They have a decreasing rate of supply, and over time, adoption of Bitcoin and Ethereum has increased. And as we know from economics, when supply is staying the same or decreasing and demand is increasing, the price will appreciate. So I invest heavily into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Currently, they are the majority of my portfolio, and I prefer to hold them in the form of ETFs because in Canada, we're very lucky to have Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs, which track the performance of Bitcoin and Ethereum for a very small management fee, which is built into the price of the shares already. Now, this is how I was able to get over 100% returns in my TFSA and my RRSP by holding with a very long time horizon Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. And again, me personally, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum especially are very strong investments for the next few years at least. Now, I get a lot of questions asking me about specific altcoins. Things like Solana, which is very popular now, XRP. All right, I do not only hold Bitcoin and Ethereum in my portfolio. I do have a very small portion of altcoins and that I've done research on and that I know others strongly invested in. My favorite analyst, of course, you know, is Benjamin Cohen from Into the Cryptoverse. And let's be honest, he knows more than me. He knows more than you. He's a PhD. He's been in the cryptocurrency industry for many years. Okay, he's a PhD. He has a few projects which he holds in his portfolio. And even he, by the way, recommends you have a vast majority of your portfolio as Bitcoin and Ethereum. But there are some projects that I hold and that he holds because it's good to diversify, and let's face it, there is the potential of very good returns if you can pick the right projects, which again, we cannot do, which is why we hold it as a very small portion of our portfolio. Now, again, I'm going to be talking about this more in future videos, but the short reason for why we do not try to pick cryptocurrency projects that would do well, aside from Bitcoin and Ethereum, is because all of the ones that have been around long enough for us to get enough data have failed. There are many cryptocurrencies that have been around longer than these new ones that have failed. Things like Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SV, things that were in the top 10 for a long time and have now dropped way below the top 10. So you would have been way better off investing into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, how do we think we know which of the current top 10, aside from Bitcoin and Ethereum, are going to stay in the top 10? Because in the past, it hasn't happened. Only Bitcoin and Ethereum have maintained their place. Well, the answer is we don't know. Okay, we can try to make a guess if we're like Benjamin Cohen, who has been studying the cryptocurrency markets for years. He can do all the math, he tries, but even he knows that Bitcoin and Ethereum are going to stay the top 2. And we're already getting amazing returns in the cryptocurrency market by holding Bitcoin and Ethereum. So the most important thing is the opportunity cost. If we're trying to pick these altcoins, that means that money is not invested into Bitcoin and Ethereum, which has historically had very good returns. So as for me, I have a very small portion of my portfolio dedicated to altcoins. I think last I checked, it's less than 5%. And each individual coin is around 1%. Now, for example, in the Broke Student portfolio, or for a lot of you, because I know a lot of people come to me saying, I have $200 to invest, what should I put it in? If I told you to put 1% of your portfolio into an altcoin, that would be $2. So it's not worth it, right? I would just say, if I were you, I would put all that money into Ethereum, assuming that you can afford to lose it. So altcoins that I currently hold in my portfolio are Chainlink, Polkadot, ADA, and Helium. And again, they're a very small portion of my portfolio. These are projects that I've done research in and I think have potential, but I'm not going to put all my eggs in that basket. Again, the vast majority of my cryptocurrency holdings are Bitcoin and Ethereum. All right. Now, other than stocks and cryptocurrencies, There are assets that I would like to invest in the future that I haven't gotten around to yet or am exposed to in a different way. For example, real estate. Now, I think real estate is an amazing investment, and there's a lot of potential, especially in the country where I live, Canada, where real estate has historically done very, very well. Now, you can invest in REITs, which are real estate funds, which give you exposure to real estate in your investment accounts, and they have fixed income, which they pay out to holders of the shares. Now, currently in my portfolio, I do not have any REITs, but I do plan to have some in the future. And as well, I do plan to hold some real estate in my portfolio in the future. Now, commodities like gold and silver, I do not invest in, but I'm not necessarily going to recommend you don't invest into gold and silver because historically people have used them as a hedge against inflation. And if you're holding something like that, a certain percentage of your portfolio as a hedge against inflation, me personally, I consider my cryptocurrency holdings as a hedge against inflation, so I don't need any more. But if you're doing that, I can't necessarily recommend against it, other than to show you that gold historically has not performed as well as Bitcoin and Ethereum have. All right, next, NFTs. I do not hold any NFTs, I do not invest in NFTs, and I've talked about this in previous videos, so you can go and look that up. I do not see an investment thesis for investing in specific NFT projects, and so I consider it very speculative, almost gambling. However, I do know people who make money flipping NFTs if they get on the whitelist, but I don't really consider this investing because you're basically trying to win a giveaway. It's not really something that you invest money in. And finally, options. Now, I have traded options in the past because I didn't know what I was doing, and I made the mistake so that you don't have to. I do not trade options. I will never trade options again. They are very, very risky. Now, there are people who like to gamble, like Wall Street bets, and I can recommend you don't gamble, but if you want to do it, it's your money. But I do not personally trade options. And we're going to talk a lot more in future videos about why day trading is not a good idea, why trading options is not a good idea. But for the scope of this video, I do not hold any options in my portfolio. All right, so I think that covers everything. Again, there is the broke student portfolio, which you can check. It's an example of what I would do if I was a broke student starting out again and what I would invest in. You can join the Discord for absolutely free and ask me questions. And be sure to stick around for the rest of this series. Subscribe, because I am going to be going through everything I know about personal finance and investing. Thanks for watching.